You're watching PEGRI TV, Rhode Island's public access channel.
The wheel is turning and you can't slow down. You can't let go and you can't hold on. You can't go back.
Hello, welcome back into my Wheelhouse. I'm your host, Sheamus. Today is, what is it, the 24th of February?
I think it's the 5th.
25th?
I'm guessing.
Who knows? Hard to keep track.
Oh my
Mike's
God,
back.
25th.
And on the first time on the show, my good friend
Wow.
Jeremy Chaitin.
From
Welcome
New York
to my
City.
Wheelhouse. That's right.
Awesome.
folks.
A Knicks fan
Very
and a
unfortunate.
Yankee fan.
Very unfortunate.
That's right.
Very
We got a lot to get to. We'll do a little recap about the All-Star Weekend, which was exciting depending on who you talk to. Not if you talk to someone in Charlotte. I thought that crowd was pretty miserable, didn't you?
I
No energy.
didn't really pay attention to the crowd. No energy. But
No
I
energy.
mean, I don't know what was. I mean, you can pick your little spots that were exciting, but overall, yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot less non-exciting than exciting, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. You got any chumps before we
Yeah, I
spin?
do have one. I
Okay,
mean,
who's your
I've been holding this one, and we got the NCAA up on the board a little bit. But I've got a peeve out there that's driving me nuts. And it started at the beginning of the year where I watched the game. I watched Villanova and Kansas, and the last minute of that game took 19 minutes and 45 seconds for the last 19 minutes and 45 seconds.
horrible.
There were 15 stoppages in the last minute of play, and it
terrible.
happened again over the weekend with Tennessee and LSU.
It happens a lot. The tennis, oh my
So,
God, that
like,
Tennessee game
I'm
was-
thinking of boycotting and saying, I'm thinking of putting a timer on and saying, look, when that last minute comes up in a sport game, it's going 12 minutes. After 12 minutes, I'm turning the station. And the only exception I'll make is University of Virginia because I'm watching it. But that is absolutely absurd, or whatever's going on there. 20 minutes for the last minute of a game?
It's awful. It's
it's happening.
It's not watchable.
So that's my
and
chump.
it's happened more than 2 times. It's been
Well, a
while.
lot more. The two,
Yeah.
two that I've been watching.
Yeah. All right, Zion Williamson. We can go right
What a
into the
topic.
college basketball. So, biggest story of the non-NBA came against the Duke big headline matchup against North Carolina in Cameron Indoor. It was a very exciting matchup. Barack Obama was there. There was a lot of big names. You could feel the energy going crazy. 30 seconds in, Zion Williamson obliterates the side of his Paul George 2s, explodes through the shoe. The injury itself didn't actually look that serious. Zion is day-to-day. I think Zion's fine overall. It was a mild knee sprain was the official title of the injury. So I assume that he'll be back in a couple games because I think that he's going to want to play.
Yeah.
So I don't think I want to have the discussion more so be whether or not he should play or should not play, because I think he's gonna end up playing. So I think that conversation is kind of mute to a degree. I think moreover, this transition into a discussion overall in media into dealing more and more with fixing the one and done and with having high school players and at what risk these players that are high recruits
ahead, Jeremy.
put
Take it
themselves into in this case.
Yeah, so you had Coach K come out and say, this kid wants to play. You don't know how much weight you can take off that statement, but at the end of the day, you have all these NBA players kind of reaching out via social media, maybe even messaging him saying, hey, it's not worth it, you're going to get paid. Looking at if he's the first draft pick, he's looking at 50 mil over the next 4 years. So it's like, is it worth it? Is it not? It's all about him. It's kind of what he wants there.
Well, in line with what Shay's saying, we could talk about that for the whole show, and I couldn't. I see everything you're saying there, and I think there's pluses and minuses to all of that. But I look at that game. When I watched that game, I was so pumped for that freaking game. It was like
I was very excited.
that's the biggest college game since Kareem played Elvin Hayes in the Astrodome, and all that. And I couldn't think of another one. I couldn't think of another game that matched that.
Maybe.
And then
Obama was there.
Then you actually there, and you turn it all day. You psych for it. You go. And 37 seconds
so
into the
deflating,
game, it ends
so
like
deflating.
that.
Yeah, I was
I
on
mean, the
couch
price
30
of the
minutes
tickets,
early.
more than the Super Bowl tickets.
Yes.
$2,500 for the cheapest ticket, $11,000 they were paying for tickets to sit in that place. And that's a testimony to Zion and what's going on with that guy. I can't get over how good he is as I keep watching him and what he brings to the court. I mean, here's a quote from Ben Gulliver of the Washington Post. He hurdles around the court like a weapon of war.
Yes.
Oh my
Ben
God.
Gulliver calls him the USS Zion.
Hey, it's just amazing. How about the picture of him deflating the ball with his hand. Did you
Yeah,
see that
no,
one?
it wasn't even a squeeze. It was just the
It was
fingertips.
fingers.
It was this.
Yeah,
And
his
I've
those
never
fingers were in
seen
the
that.
ball.
I mean, you can tell me, get on me like the 2 fingers with Will Chamberlain if you see that all the time, but I haven't seen that.
No,
Yeah,
He's
no.
just there and he's grabbing a ball and he's deflating it.
No, so the thing with Zion is, and I understand why the discussion started on how a prime player who has $50 million potentially at risk of a severe injury happening, why they
got huge
theoretically
insurance,
should be
Phil,
able $8 million insurance
two of them.
policy.
He's got a second one, too.
Right. I understand why that discussion pervades after something like this, and I understand why it makes sense. It's just because of his situation in comparison to the remaining 2 through what have you in this draft class, he would need to have the most severe of the most severe injury. He would need to have like a double torn Achilles. He would need to have something absolutely preposterous for him not to. He would need to be it to be commonly understood that he was going to miss a full year and then some for him not to go number 1.
Yeah.
And that the differentiating factor being that big, paired with the fact that he has such a all or nothing, all in, 100% mentality where he is just the most eager, all out, crazy force of a player, you just know he's going to play. And you know that it doesn't matter, even though the risks seem like they may be looming and large. I think that because of his situation, not only in terms of what he is as a personality, but what his surrounding elements are in terms of a draft class, I think that there's a 0% chance he doesn't play another game. Yeah. And he will be playing.
Here's an interesting factoid. Junior in high school. I don't know if you heard this.
Yeah.
6'3", 175. Junior and senior
Zion?
year. Gained 100 pounds in his junior. This
Yeah.
is a fact.
Right.
He
Senior
gained
year.
100 freaking pounds. From 6'3", 175 as a junior to 6'7", 275, and said he didn't even feel it.
Yeah.
All he felt, all the athleticism was there, all the quickness, everything was there. It wasn't like anything. It wasn't like he had gained weight and got sloppy. He just gained weight and kept getting more athletic.
Yeah, people started
What a
moving out of the way a
freak.
lot more, I'm sure, too.
You're talking about the one and dones, and I like what the way they're progressing with that and reducing the age and getting
So it's been
after that.
proposed. To drop it down to 18
Because
has
what
been
needs to
proposed.
change in college basketball is you're seeing exactly at Duke. This thing of them reconstructing a team every year, that's not what Coach K does. That's not what these guys. They should be getting guys in there that are going to stay in college and be in college. I mean, I was, just the Nike thing with the sneakers.
Right.
You know what? Nike headquarters, they got a building named after Mike Krzyzewski and a statue of Mike Krzyzewski outside the building
Yes.
at Nike headquarters.
Yeah.
Man, you talk about the connections between the one and dones and the big bucks and the sneakers that are happening out there.
You think he's going to end up with Nike?
Huh?
You think he's going to end up with Nike?
Who? Zion?
They're gonna
Well,
have
he
to
has
make
to
a
while he's
sweet
at
deal.
Duke. He has no choice. He was
Well,
an
so
Adidas
that's-
guy
that's
before.
something
Oh,
I
was
He was
wanted-
an Adidas guy before he got to
Yeah,
college.
in the AAU circuit. So that's something I did want to discuss, and that's something that I think would be really interesting, and maybe we could begin to see a new era of player empowerment before they're even capable of being empowered in a certain way. What is Duke University going to do if Zion puts on Under Armours and just says, I'm not wearing Nikes, I busted my foot in those, why would I wear those?
Well, would Nike have recourse to take the money back or anything like that? Or almost,
Yeah, but then-
would,
but then-
would
but
they
then
take
if-
down the Coach K statue?
No, but Nike is still obviously trying to jockey for Zion. I think that this specific case, this shoe explosion, this injury, this very small, it's a blip of an injury. This made Zion probably another $40 million in his potential shoe deal. If Nike wants to keep him, they're going to need to up it by 10% or whatever the hell the original offer was going to be.
Absolutely.
We're going to see him get by and far the greatest shoe deal for a rookie contract that we've ever seen. He's going to get a contract that's going to rival a Damian Lillard or players that aren't a number one, aren't like a LeBron or Durant. But I guarantee he's going to have a top 10 NBA shoe deal coming into the league right away because of his stature and just because of what he is as a brand already. And I think that this is great for him. Just overall, so the NBA has talked about dropping it, and they've apparently proposed it. I do think that they're kind of like lollygagging a little bit.
Well, it's going to be a couple of years before it takes effect.
The discussion of the last CBA
222.
was that if they wanted to, they could have had it in place in the summer between 2020 and 2021. But then, because that's when we started to get some, the wheels were turning with the potential of the double draft being in 2021, and that's the rumors started then because that's when, if everything fell into place, it would be able to happen. But it seems like they're kind of putting it off. I don't know what the NBA's stance is on it. I think that they're trying to bolster up the G League to be a certain level of height.
They're going
so
to
that
offer
there's
the 125,000
so that there's legitimate ulterior options. But I think that once they get to the point where it's 18 and you can choose to go to college or go straight to the league, I think it's going to work out better. And I think that once that happens, I think it's more likely that another domino falls in college sports, and they allow endorsement deals and name and likeness to be sold to the players that are at high enough stature to earn their own money off of them being a celebrity. So I think the first step is going to be getting high school players get drafted straight to the league, and I think that it's not gonna be every player. If you look back across history, before the one and done rule was in place, there was only 45 players that were drafted out of high school. 32 of them were either strong rotation players or stars. So it was a proven success rate, and the players that did get drafted were scouted heavily. And this was back in 2005 was the last batch of these guys that came into play. So now there's even a higher knowledge base. Agents are smarter, players are smarter and more well trained. I think that the entering high school athlete into the NBA is going to be more prepared. And I think that it's just going to continue to move forward. And I think looking back, this Zion discussion that we're having now, I think, is going to be a precursor to more dominoes starting to really lead towards the right direction.
Well, anything they can do to, and it's never going to be, when we go back to Lamar Odom at the University of Rhode Island, and the president actually doing the interview to accept him into the school. I mean, this has been going on forever, but anything they can do to make it a little better. Like, what I always think this time of year, do you think any of the one and dones are going to another college class at this point? Why would they?
Probably not.
Why would they?
Right,
Why
they're not
would they?
graduating.
With all they got
They're
to
not
do
going
every
out.
day and all the work they got to do for college, they've already, the first semester has set them up for the second semester. They've been to their last class.
So
I mean, it's a joke.
You see some, like, maybe more noble athletes going back to school, finishing that, getting their degree.
That's
but-
about as rare as you're ever going to hear.
Right. So, similar thing. I mean, do you want to give these kids that are 17, 18, right out of high school, $125K? I mean, that's a big salary. These kids, even
Not
if you
for Zion's
even if you were
not.
going to pay these college kids and they're walking around college with this money, you know, will they?
Oh, you mean the colleges actually pay them?
Whether
Or
it be the
both.
college
Both.
or you send them to the league and
Yeah.
they go and walk around at the colleges with their friends who chose to go to school instead of, you know, going straight to the G League. I mean, that could be a serious thing for
Sure.
someone that young to have that much money.
I think I go back to, we saw it work before. There was only like 12 instances of players that just absolutely stunk. Like the Jonathan Bender is probably like the highest drafted guy who was terrible. I mean, Kwame Brown. But if you look at Kwame Brown's career, if you go look at his stats, he actually had an okay career. It was just that he got unfortunately lauded at number one. But if you look at these guys, they were all 18 and 17. And they, even if they maybe made some unusual choices, maybe you're Jermaine O'Neal and your J.R. Smith, maybe they weren't the best Samaritans, but they went on to live successful and very fruitful and lucrative careers in the NBA. And I think that paired with the fact that I think the general young athlete today is much more mature than what the athlete was formerly. And I think that they're more prepared to be able to handle, never mind 175K. I think they're more prepared to handle a $5 million contract coming out.
There's a lot of fear for failure just
Yes,
with all
of
that
course.
social media and everything. Everyone looking at them. There's just more eyes on you.
It's true.
Whether you like it or not.
I found it an interesting analogy over the course of looking at everything Zion's is that to equate him to Giannis, and in the sense that what he's bringing to the game is that not having to have a position anymore allows them and not having and having that no contact rule on defense where you got to have hands off more or less. What it does is it creates a game where guys like Zion and Giannis, even though they can't shoot the three because they're so strong off of the dribble taken to the rim, that the Bucks are one of the top 3-point shooters in the league, even though Giannis can't shoot them.
Yep.
And I think that really Zion is going to, it potentially would have the same effect with him with the ball where he can drive. He's going to track things, and there's actually going to be better 3-point
right
shooting
out,
on that
yeah,
team
absolutely.
because even though he can't shoot it. And
1000%.
I think that's probably a good. The other thing that I thought was interesting with him.
Zion.
The last one. Everybody likes this guy.
Oh, yeah.
The casual fan, he passes the eye test. The
Yeah.
old timer like me, he passes the grit and the motor, and then the new school metrics guy. Everybody likes this guy,
Yeah,
except Shaq. Well, Shaq does most.
No,
of
Shaq
it.
loves him.
Most-
He's,
yeah.
he's universally loved. I agree.
Shaq says he's going to have a
There we go.
challenge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Big wheel spin.
All right, Space Jam 2 has a release date. Whatchamacallit, I forget what LeBron's studio is called. But they released the date that Space Jam will be coming out, July 16th, 2021, which is coincidentally 15 days after LeBron James' next free agent decision will be made.
Wow.
We don't know any other details besides the fact that LeBron James is the primary actor and that it will be Looney Tunes centered, as you can imagine. Recently, we are aware of a lot of Clutch clients, Anthony Davis, obviously, Ben Simmons, John Wall, and some others. A lot of these guys have been speculated to be potential monstars because of their thing, their relationship with Rich Paul and LeBron. And then recent signee with Clutch Sports, or supposed signee once his deal is up, Draymond Green is linked to LeBron and Rich Paul. He's apparently going to be hopping ship over to Clutch Sports once his current deal is up.
He's a good bid for a villain.
Yes, so I think that the Monstars, I would say that Ben Simmons, Draymond Green, and Anthony Davis are locks because of their connections with Clutch Sports and just overall kind of fitting the bill of being an all-star caliber
Well, I'm glad it's
player.
not going to be the banana boat.
Yes, no.
God, I'm looking for the.
So who do you think the other two Monstars are?
I'm going for the banana boat 2. And banana boat 2, I'm looking at it out there as Kyrie,
Yes.
KD,
Yes.
Jimmy Butler,
Jimmy
and
Butler.
Anthony Davis.
Jimmy Butler, okay.
Jimmy Butler. I think that's Kyrie's
No
banana
Ben
boat.
Simmons.
That's what I think that's Kyrie's banana boat.
Yeah, I don't think Ben Simmons is with mine either, but I would probably see Blake Griffin in that. I mean, when that was discussed,
Wasn't he in the last one?
when that was discussed
Yeah,
in
he was.
2012,
Yeah.
when this first came up, I guess Blake Griffin was like the biggest name out. He
Yeah.
had signed with Jordan, all that. So I think he's going to be in it. The Monstars weren't necessarily villainous players. Their skills were taken by these aliens and
But I
then
think the
used as-
Nerdlocks need guys that are in the prime.
Yeah. Well, it's
I
interesting
mean,
because
they need prime talent. They can't be taking
wait.
these Draymond Greens.
It's
and
gonna be in
and Blake
2021.
Griffin, or Carmelo Anthony or D Wade.
Well, that's,
Right.
that's
Even
another thing.
LeBron's going to be at the end. You
Right,
know.
that's why it's
That's why Ben
interesting.
Simmons is
Right.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
wow.
it's going to be younger players. It's usually, if you look back at the original Monstars, I mean, it was Barkley and strong players, but I mean, they had Sean Bradley and Muggsy Bogues, and I think it was more so because they had such identifiable characteristics for a cartoon animation to be able to play around with and really accentuate and really to characterize. So if you think about players that'll fit with that, I mean, like, you can obviously just like close your eyes and you can envision a purple cartoon character with a unibrow. Like, you can just see it. I mean, it's just known that that's going to be one of them. And that's why certain other things would be funny. Like, and I wonder how much they put into interest. Blake Griffin's an interesting person that might spurn off into other people with players that have maybe media or acting or just screen experience. And with that, do you think that Boban is a candidate for a Monstar because
Wow.
he is a movie villain already?
Yes.
He's in John Wick.
Yes.
Boban. Put Boban in.
I want Bobob too.
Yes.
Bobob
Oh, yeah.
and Bobob.
Yes, yes.
I want. That
yeah,
would be great.
if they're practicing, like, you steal their skills from the practice gym while they're all
Right.
hanging out. Like, those two are always practicing together. Those are
Yeah.
the best buddies of the NBA. So I'd love
would
to
be
see them
great.
pull.
I don't have any other thoughts, although I
That's
think
enough on
I think
that.
that.
Although I got my alien shirt up,
That's
thanks for
right,
that.
yeah.
I'm glad the aliens are back. We didn't have any aliens all year this year. We had three shows last year. We had aliens. in
Yes
them.
or no? Secret stuff is wine.
Yes. I don't know what you said.
His secret stuff is wine.
Mike's secret stuff.
Yeah,
Oh, LeBron's secret stuff.
is
Wow.
wine.
That almost went over my head. All right. What do we got? What do we got?
we
Ooh,
can't
double
do switching.
spin. Boo.
We put the pressure on you, Jeremy, spinning the wheel.
I'm going again?
Yeah, we're not going to talk about the same thing again. All right, All-Star Saturday night. So, a recap, we had Tatum with a phenomenal half-court bank shot to win the skills
Nothing
challenge.
was phenomenal about
The
that.
half-court
range
shot
skill.
was. Okay, we'll go one by one, but Tatum won against Trae Young in the finals of the skill challenge. Joe Harris beat out.
Yes!
I
love Joe.
Beat out.
He's awesome.
Buddy Hield and Steph Curry, and then Hammy Diallo won the dunk contest with a honey dipper dunk over Shaq. So starting the skills challenge, easily the most polarizing event in Saturday night. They've changed it a lot. It used to be you had to make several passes, and it was more about dribbling and passing, so it was obviously a point guard oriented event.
Yes or no?
I
They
think-
could have pulled somebody out of the stands that could have won it right on the floor right
Yes,
at that time.
absolutely. And
Okay.
I think
Does that say enough about the skills?
it needs to be restricted more, and it
Absolutely.
should be less focused on jump shooting. I hated that Trae Young could throw the ball ahead and then chase it. I hated that you didn't need to complete the passing. You could miss 3 times in a row and then go.
It's like an NBA
That's lame.
halftime competition where
Yes.
you make 3 and you go, I got a couple ideas though.
Okay, yes, I want to hear your ideas.
Yeah.
You dribble 2 basketballs instead of 1.
That's great. I mean,
That's-
Calvin,
Oh,
Murphy,
yeah.
Calvin Murphy used to what he could do is he could beat every guy in the league with 2 balls while they dribble 1.
well, that's because
a
no one else
skill.
could dribble when he could dribble.
But that's a skill, though. I mean, so
Absolutely.
that's
Yeah,
one
that's
thing.
great.
There. How about blindfolded when you're going to take the layup.
Yes, I'm in for all these. These are great ideas.
It's a skill. And then
That would
you
just be
time
hilarious.
it instead of making it a race between the two people.
That's one thing I never understood. Why did they get off of time?
Time it.
You're rewarding just situational, one person doing better than the other person rather than who did the best.
Yeah, it all came down to whether you made the three or not.
Yeah, I don't know if their goal was to make it longer or shorter there.
I don't know what their
right?
goal was.
I think they wanted to make it quicker because we did see them.
Make it quicker.
They really are accentuating the final two events. They're accentuating the three-point contest and the dunk contest. They're elongated. They take more time allotment of the whatever it is, the 3-hour block that the
Especially the
NBA
dunk.
has.
Just
Produce this.
extended.
They got rid of the remember the higher shooting challenge where it was a pro, a former pro,
Yeah,
a WNBA
yeah.
player. They got rid of that. I didn't dislike that, but
I enjoyed that.
You can tell that they're trying to really put focus on the three-point contest and the dunk contest. And in terms of those two, we hear a lot of people because of the dunk contest's maybe inability to live up to really the awesome ones in previous years, specifically the Aaron Gordon and Zach LaVine one. A lot of people are really regaling and desiring the three-point contest to be the primary event because more often than not, that event has more premier players. It's
Okay.
more likely than not that you can succeed in the dunk contest if you're a random rotation player or a young star rather than an all-star superstar. If you think about all-time past, you had dunk contests that did include the Dr. J and the Dominique and the Michael Jordan. Now dunk contests is more specialized and you don't need to be the top-notch player to win the contest. So what do you think about those two in comparison?
Too many misses.
Lots of misses.
Lots of
Dennis Smith
misses.
missed so
And
much.
that spoils everything.
There's really no
You know, but
penalty
there's gotta
for a
be
miss.
Too many misses.
Make your dunk.
Just too many misses.
Do you like when they used to have, if you missed the dunk, you got scored? Like, you know what I mean? If you missed
Yeah,
it,
it should be
Well, I
two
don't understand
clear
how
shots
Dennis,
at it.
Two
Dennis
shots,
Smith
two
missed
attempts.
5 dunks and
Two
he
clear
still gets
attempts,
a
best
35.
attempt.
He goes 0 for 5 and he still gets a 30. Is that a minimum score, 35?
Yeah.
Even
Yeah,
if you miss every single one.
that made no sense to me. How do you, in a dunk contest, not make the basket, and then
Get points.
you get 35 out of 50?
I guess they want to
Shout
see
out
you
Al
execute
Matola
that
on that
dunk.
one.
Yeah.
He
But it just loses
pointed it
everything
right out
for
to
him.
me.
Maybe a second time, or they're going to say, you can't do the same dunk again after the second one. You got to do a different dunk. I don't
Right.
care what you do. I don't want to see you miss the same one 5 times in a row.
Well, I mean, if you look
and then I
back-
agree with you. The lackluster names is just.
Yeah, I heard the scorers table saying like, "Oh, you can't change the dunk now. You got to stick with it just because you might mess up." It's
Right.
like, no, you got to change it now because you messed up,
Right.
and that dunk's over. We already know what's going to happen. If you make it, I'm not impressed
And
anymore.
that's been a tough one to maintain over the years. Because
they've been
you've
tinkering
had
with
such
that every
a
year.
standard, and you've had such. I mean, Zach LaVine, give him credit. Aaron Gordon, give him credit that what they brought to the table. But then to take it another step from there, it was hard. What they did was amazing. To take it another step from where they took it, but I don't know where the next step is.
I think with all that said, I do think that the dunk contest should remain the primary event because I think that it is the more Saturday skill headlining grabbing act in terms of what a performance is for the NBA, even if it doesn't have that headlining name. I think that don't let one off year change your perception of what should be the headlining event of a contest. Because if you just look forward next year is immediately going to contend to be one of the best dunk contests ever. We've already heard Aaron Gordon and Zach LaVine being rumored to be willing to have a rematch. It's in Chicago for Zach LaVine. We've heard as soon as the dunk contest ended, Donovan Mitchell and Giannis were having discussions online of joining the dunk contest. And we all know that Zion's going to be in the dunk contest. So with any of those four of those 5 guys, it's immediately a fantastic dunk contest. So don't jump down the Hamidou Diallo and the John Collins throat just because they were participants in an off year. And even still, there were really strong dunks this year.
Okay.
I think John Collins' first dunk where he slapped the side of the backboard and had a mini windmill under the hoop, that
Yeah,
was a really
underrated.
underrated dunk. That was a great dunk. And it was just like that there was several foibles where like he broke Wilbur Wright's airplane before he could dunk it, and it wasn't even that impressive of a dunk.
No.
Like there was some of those, and those stood out more than the highlights.
But what do you do if the same crop or same level of player, the same stature of player, ends up being the ones that are in it? Do you cancel it?
No.
No, you still got to do it.
You
That's
want-
kind of what happens because you don't know whether Zion's going to go in it. You don't know.
Zion's in it, 100%.
Okay.
He's competed in a dunk contest every year since
Yeah,
he could dunk. Every year.
Wow, that'll be.
They even interviewed Diallo afterwards, and he said, "Wow, like they asked him, would you go up against Zion Williamson next year and defend your
Yeah.
title?" He said, "Wow, like it would be so crazy. I'll have to bring my best stuff."
I read this fact that the most popular basketball player in the world is LeBron, and the second most valuable, popular basketball player in the world is Zion.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I
That's
don't know.
impressive.
I don't know
That's
what,
impressive.
what metric, but I mean, if you
Well,
look,
it wasn't. You can actually measure it. It's a metric. It is a real metric. It wasn't just
Hashtags,
it wasn't just speculation.
mentions.
I don't know how they measure any of these things, but they're
Right.
they're able to measure who the most popular player is, and it was Zion was the second, other than I was amazing.
I mean, Diallo
so the dunk contest with Zion in it is already made. no matter-
Diallo lost to Zion in high school in a dunk contest. Zion beat him, and Diallo did the
Maybe
same.
that was when he was 6'3", 175.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Diallo did the same dunk where he jumped over someone and honey dipped it, and that dunk was phenomenal. The dunk over Shaq where he
Yeah.
put his and then he hang on the rim, showed the thing.
Yeah, that was cool.
With the 3-point contest. Are there too many participants? 10
Yes.
participants.
Yes.
Way too many.
Yes.
I think it's crazy.
Yes.
And I think if they shrunk it down, I think in the past, 8 was formerly the most we've ever seen, but they used to do 6. And then when they did 6, they would knock 2 people out a round, and they would have multiple rounds. Now it starts at 10, and then boom, you have 3, and then you win that round, and then you win.
Yeah.
So I think it was very disjointed in how they changed
I don't
it.
hate 10 players in that. What I hated was 2 rounds. I don't really think that's fair to everyone out there. I guess
Did they
nothing
still
really
go
needs
to
to be
commercial
fair.
after every or
It's-
do they get
it's
to
inconsistent.
With
Sometimes
the
they do-
NBA that doesn't go
Yeah,
to
it could be
commercial?
after 7
The women's
guys.
NBA, they do it during halftime, and that was pretty impressive to do it during the halftime. But
Yeah, so like they went right to 3 people, and that was the final round. Those 3 shouted out, right? It was Steph,
Buddy and Harris.
Buddy, and
Joe Harris.
your boy Joe Harris.
I would like to point out that each me, you, and Sloan picked one correct guess from each event. Like
Really?
you picked Joe Harris, I picked Tatum, and he picked Diallo.
Cool.
You would, but yeah.
Wow, that's really
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Harris, great shooter. Wasn't surprised that he won. He was a good pick to take it home. What do you think about them like trying to honor Charlotte Hornet history with Glenn Rice and Mark Price and Del Curry, and they were all awful, and they hit what 8 shots combined? That was terrible.
Yeah, that was sad
Why
to
would
watch.
they let them do that?
Well, at least they didn't bring a bunch of old timers into dunk.
Yes, that's true. Although I think Vince Carter could have been a good contestant.
Yeah, I didn't pay too much attention to that.
Terrible.
Two out
Go
of
with
5
yourself.
repeats. 2 out of 5 repeats. Western Conference.
I got 7, 8.
So we got the 7 and 8 seeds.
Oh,
we got
boy.
6 teams that are locked into playoff contention. This is going to be the big
Where, in the
discussion.
West?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we got this, and
Yeah, I agree.
Probably,
I agree.
probably
Utah's
7,
playing well.
probably 7, but more so 6. So
6.
the 4 teams that are vying for the 7th and 8th spots right now, the Spurs are in 7th, the Clippers are in 8th, and then the Kings are in 9th, and the Lakers are in 10th. The Lakers are 3 games back, so it's a very close cluster. If you look at
Timberwolves are only 1 game and a loss coming back. Back to the Lakers.
yeah, but they're 4 back, and I don't trust their schedule is worse than these guys. But if you look at it, depending on who you're talking to, people will say that the Lakers have the hardest strengths of schedule, and some people say the Clippers have the easiest. But if you look at each of these teams has exactly 23, except I think the Spurs have 22. They're all playing about the same amount of good teams or playoff teams or just a top 4 or 5 seed-ish. The Milwaukee, Denver, Boston, Toronto, Utah, OKC, Golden State. I believe every single one of these, Houston, every single one of these 4 teams plays all of those teams,
none
if
of them
not
has an
once
easy ride out.
or twice. Every single one of these teams is going to have a tough schedule. I think it's going to be who can be motivated to the highest degree and who catches the other team on the right night. I think a lot of these, if you're looking at the schedules, especially down the line, like the Lakers and the Kings, they both play Utah and Portland on the last day of the season. I wouldn't be surprised with Utah probably already being slotted into the 5 or the 4, or Portland being where they are. Maybe they rest Damian Lillard. We've seen
All
that
of
happen before.
But, well, I'd
so
say,
that's where jockeying is
on
going to
that
change.
right there, I say the last week shows us that the schedule doesn't mean a whole lot. You just saw Golden State go down. You just saw Toronto go down.
Yeah.
So that
I mean, the schedule means something.
I don't. It doesn't. Well, I mean, to say one team has, I'm not looking at it saying this team has a harder schedule, so they can't do it.
So who are your 2 picks?
My pick is really, I'm just hoping. San Antonio, I'd like to hold. I like Pop. I like the whole thing. I like the style of play. So I want San Antonio in, even though there's some negatives there. But I definitely want the Kings. And I think the Kings are hungry. They're young. I'd love to see them get there. I think I'd love to see the embarrassment of the Lakers not getting in. I mean, just being as a Celtic, that's going to be nice and embarrassing for them if they don't get in. So it's the Kings and San Antonio.
Who are your 2 picks?
So yeah, I'm right in the same boat. There's no way Pop with DeMar with LaMarcus Aldridge is missing this round of the playoffs. I don't know how hot they'll do, but they'll definitely put up a good fight. Clippers, I honestly don't see them sticking around up there. Those Kings are gonna come past them.
It's
The
amazing
Kings
what
are
they've done
awesome.
since they traded all those players, though. That how solid they played.
Yeah, I really like the Kings. Shout out to my buddy Amon Shumpert. When he was on them, he was getting them all motivated. Pretty good with the young team. When he was on the
Chemistry brother.
Knicks, he's a
Right
really
on,
big
Vaughn.
chemistry guy. He had that Knicks tape thing going with them. He had the
Who
scores.
hasn't worked out so far is Harrison Barnes.
No,
Yeah, Harrison
He's
Barnes.
shooting 23% from the three, shooting
Yeah.
34% from that field. He's averaging 12 points
But
a
if you
game.
think about it, he's an upgrade over Justin Jackson, even at
Yeah.
that production.
Yeah.
So it's fine. Even though he stinks, he's still better. He's still better than what they had.
Yeah.
I think that the Kings are a lock. Out of
Really?
the 4 teams, they're the only team that I'm locking. I think they're an immediate lock. I think that they could get 46 wins. And
You
that
think they can go 15-7 the rest of the
15,
way?
I think they go 15-8. I'm just thinking they're playing. They got Boston.
I'm hoping the Boston Celtics go
Well,
15-8.
they got Boston twice, and I am nervous about both those games.
Yeah.
They got Philly, and Philly's going to be on a back-to-back when the Kings play them. I don't know if Philly's ready for that. They got the Lakers as one of their tough teams, so who knows what the heck's going on with them. And then they got Houston twice, who is definitely the highest likely candidate to be resting their good players. Houston Rockets, most likely candidate to be in the last 5 games of the season. They're probably James Harden probably going to be playing a very limited load. Chris Paul probably not even going to play. I bet you Houston Rockets are going to be a win late in the season, and then their other games are against really some bottom barrel
Although
teams.
they beat Golden State without Harden.
Yes, they did beat, and you got to speak good on that. They played a really good game. But
Paul went off.
and then I'm just thinking about the other side of the spectrum. Clippers lock out, no shot. They're not making the playoffs, no chance.
Yeah, I don't see
they're,
it.
They're trying. They're
Playing together.
They're more inclined to lose because of the positional necessity to get their draft pick this year, and based off of their rosters in comparison to these 4 teams, they have the worst personnel. I think
Definitely.
that the Doc Rivers is a better coach.
But wouldn't they already
than-
be losing if they were tanking?
Yeah, but they have been. Since the
Yeah.
Tobias Harris trade, they've been treading water. But, I mean, this team, they have a 5-game stretch coming up where they're playing OKC, Utah, and Boston. And then the end of the season, they're playing Utah, the Lakers, who you know are going to be fighting tooth and nail, Milwaukee. Their schedule, I think, is a lot tougher than the others. And that brings it down to...
Who's the other team? Who's your other team?
Well, I think the Kings are 100% in.
Yes.
So that brings it down to the Spurs and the Lakers. And I'm looking at the schedule, and I don't think the Lakers can do it.
Yes!
And I just don't know how they can do it because the Spurs
chance.
have
Shea has
they have too much ground ahead.
nailed it in on
They have
LeBron.
too much
Awesome.
ground ahead. The Spurs are in the 7th slot right now, and I think that the Kings might even land the 7. So that means that the Lakers would need to gain 5 games on the Spurs, which means that so they have 9 tough games. The Lakers do. They play Milwaukee, Denver, Boston, Toronto, Milwaukee again, Utah, OKC, and Golden State. In those, that's 8 games. In those 8 games, I think they need to win 4 of those games, and I don't think they can do that. If they win half those games, I think they make the playoffs. And I think you need to pay attention to those games because the rest of their teams, they'll probably lose one to a random baloney. We saw them lose to the Pelicans without Anthony Davis. They'll probably drop one randomly in there to Detroit or something like that. And LeBron has shown up. Obviously, he's showing up, but what you're getting from the supporting cast in these big games will be what dictates whether or not they are able to land in the 8th slot. Unfortunately, I think that the task is too tough, and I don't see them making it.
Good.
Yeah, I'd say if you're from LA, it's definitely a tough time. You took the beat down from the Sox in the World Series, and now both your basketball teams can't even really compete to make it into the playoffs. It almost seems like the Lakers are just kind of giving up hope, and they're going for that top 10 draft pick.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know if they're going to make the playoffs right now because it's just, I watched a game the other night. It was just like watching the 8th graders I coach sometimes with these terrible turnovers. You know, it's like slow, bonehead mistakes that can be easily adjustable by any adult.
And I would enjoy a Kings Golden State series.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
very
yeah,
exciting.
that would be
cool.
fun. That would be
No, I
really
mean,
fun.
you know,
But
like-
any of the other ones, they're just
They-
looking for
yeah,
2
really,
home games,
little
ticket
bit.
sales,
Yeah.
and that's
I
it.
think additionally, with that said, I'm not ruling it out. I'm not locking the Lakers missing.
No, they're only 2 games back in the loss
I'm
column.
locking the Clippers out and I'm locking the Kings in, but I would not be surprised. The Spurs team that
know.
lost to your Knicks
Yeah,
last
Knicks.
night, that team looked bad. And I wouldn't be surprised if moving forward, I don't know if Derek White coming back is going to give them another
Aldridge
jolt.
5 fouls in 13 minutes or something?
Aldridge has been lumbering
He has
lately, and DeRozan has been enforcing lately.
I love DeRozan, though.
That team, it makes me
bad for
nervous.
him in
They
the Toronto
got
They'll come in the
they got a
clutch.
lot of tough games. I think that it's going to come down to those two teams. I think that if I had to guess, it would finish out 7 Kings, 8 Spurs, 9 Lakers, 10 Clippers.
Well, there's a lot of basketball fans that would love to see LeBron just get
Yes, of
spanked
course.
by the Warriors again.
That's true, or miss it altogether. All right, so the Boston Celtics are a very up and down roller coaster, as usual, team this season. After All-Star break, we had a heartbreaking loss in the final moments to the Milwaukee Bucks, where Kyrie couldn't finish his unusual flip over the head layup, where he had a terrible first half, but ended up coming through in late. We lost by 1, and then we had a head-scratching loss where the bench just got obliterated by Chicago's bench in Chicago by 10 points.
Diacono outscored the whole Celtics bench in the first half.
Yes. So the Celtics are now 0-2 after All-Star break. Those two teams were still 37-22. We've dipped now to the 5th spot.
Yeah.
I still think it's more likely than not that we end up in the 4 or the 3. Indiana has been able to hold water well without Oladipo.
40 and 20.
But their schedule has been pretty light since Oladipo's gone down. It's been about a month since he's been out, and they've done well. But I think they're one of 5 teams in the league with 40 wins. But I do expect Indiana to drop to the 5, and with the Philly and Boston going ahead of them. It's just, what do you think the biggest, who is the biggest suspect for why there continues to be inconsistency?
Yeah, I love. I have to say he plays great, and it's Kyrie. It
How
really
so?
is, because his interview after the game, the guy needs to shut up. I've been on. I'm just saying. I'll just give it. This is it. Kyrie. How's things with the team? We're fine.
Right.
How do you know we're fine?
I'm here.
Because I'm here.
Right.
How does that go with his team? He's saying, that's a ridiculous statement. That doesn't help at all.
he doesn't know what he's implying.
I just scored 37 and had 10 assists. Yeah, we're all set in the playoffs. I'm here. I don't know. That plays wrong, and it's consistent.
Okay.
You got to put your finger on something. And I'll say this. I think Brad's message, to an extent, is falling on deaf ears. Because there's no way when he says what he's going to do is defend with a purpose, stop the slacking transition defense, and stop allowing so much in the second and third quarter on offense. There's no way he hasn't said that to them many times.
Yes.
But for some reason, that message is not getting through. I'll give you one. Sometimes you don't like my coach talk stuff, but that's what I am. And so what I used to tell, and not that it works all the time, but it really applies when you see that game. They have beat the top 4 teams ahead of them. They have lost to 3 of the 4 worst teams in the league. Yeah. It's this simple. It's not what you do, it's how hard you do it.
Right.
So when they play a team, it's not that Chicago's doing it hard. It's not that you have all these wonderful things. You may be doing but you ain't doing it hard enough. And
you got to go out there to beat Boston. What was that last Friday as well?
What?
That they played?
Which one?
Chicago-Boston?
Chicago was on
Chicago played
Saturday.
a back-to-back, and they actually won a good game, and Chicago's actually playing pretty well.
They're playing well. They were 5-4 in their last 9. Both Larry and Zach LaVine.
Is Kyrie starting? I'll tell you who he's starting to remind me of. Just looking at him physically and hearing what he says, Randy Moss.
That's very interesting.
Watch him. Check
tough
him.
one
Look
to
at
match
him. Well,
up
look
with.
at his face when he's talking. Hear the voice and look at him. Randy Moss.
Okay, so we know.
I don't want Randy Moss as my leader. I like Randy Moss down the road as Chicago.
Not a leader, yeah.
We know that Kyrie is struggling immensely with leadership and with
He's
the
not a
qualities
leader.
because he isn't. Exactly. So we see him taking step forwards and then 2 step back in terms of how to handle himself
He's affected
and
the team.
in his standing with his teammates, specifically with usually his after-game comments. These specific comments were fine after losing to Chicago.
You don't mind him saying that we're okay because I'm here?
I like that a lot more than all of the other things he's been saying, and I
Well,
understand
one
that
of the
it's still.
reasons he's saying it is
Tough
I
thing
know.
to compare
I
to.
know.
he's saying it because of all the other things he's saying it. He can no longer say,
Okay,
the
but-
young guys aren't coming along enough. He's saying that.
He's
because
no
he's not
longer saying that the
read
world.
between
He's
the lines
no
with
longer
him.
saying that the ceiling is falling. He's no longer saying that we're in dire straits here. He's saying that we're going to be okay. He's saying
That didn't work.
He's saying saying that this team is going to beat any other team in a 7-game series.
Because?
He's displaying confidence
And why,
in the team.
why do you feel that way, Kyrie?
He feels that way because he trusts the
'Cause
team
I'm
to be able
here.
to perform. Yes, because he can handle the load as that guy. I think that he doesn't know how his comments come across, and I think
It's
that
affecting Brad.
I don't think it's affecting.
I do. Look at the timeout when he tried to redraw the play and he's talking. He's affecting Brad.
I
Brad is
also
not
think
coaching the
it's affecting
same
Brad.
way. And I say, they lucked out. No, didn't luck out. They made the right pick with Horford. They brought a right guy
Horford's
in there.
fantastic.
I
Horford
think they need
is
more
the guy.
guys like Horford in terms of personality. And that when you're going out there and getting a guy, if Anthony Davis doesn't have a personality like Horford, I don't want him. And Kyrie, he's too much of a wild card. He's too much Randy Moss. He's too much.
What are the biggest issues for the Celtics? Quamps?
So from a third party here, not a Celtics fan, you got your New York Knicks take. Looks like they're staying with the 5 seed. Who do they got at the 4? Philly?
yeah,
Philly.
Well,
So it looks like Philly's not going anywhere. It looks like that's going to stay to me. So they'll play Philly first round. I think that can go either way, dependent on if Kyrie can kind of swing around and the whole team can like him, right?
Philly's 1-7 against the Celtics the last 8 times they played.
Yeah. So that could
So it's not that
play
bad
big.
to be doing that.
One thing I noticed when I was looking up the C's here, everyone, I think it's like top 7, 8 guys, they're all shooting over 40% from the field. That's pretty damn good.
What, from the field?
From the field.
Yeah, but 40% is not good.
It's-
41% is not good. You got to be. mean,
I guess that's just coming from
Yeah.
a Knicks fan.
Yeah, and you've got guys like Marcus Smart who actually you're saying good with like that, and
Right,
yeah.
but then when you look at 3-point percentage, that just looks terrible. You have Kyrie, and then Marcus Morris, and
Yeah.
then I think Theus.
Well, yeah, Horford's had a bad year shooting the 3, and so Tatum's down a little bit shooting the 3.
I think that the team, when we enter a game, we're matching the energy of Kyrie, and that is where you can have issues with Kyrie. For the majority of the time, when
plays
Kyrie is parading around off the court, it hasn't bled into the on-court performance, and the team hasn't faltered because of him kind of blumbering to the media after games. Because in the games, he's been playing at an all-time high defensively for his own characteristics, and he's been there offensively as a distributor and as a closer. And those things remain to be true in these 2 games, or less or so in the Chicago game, obviously. But it's when Kyrie struggles early, like he did in both of these games, and he starts to hang his head, that energy really permeates to the other players on the team, and you can see that it affects them differently. And some people are able to stay composed, an Al Horford and Tatum, even Jalen, and some people aren't. And the people that aren't are where their necessity to really imprint themselves on the game really hurts the Celtics. And I am really nervous about how Terry plays when Kyrie plays. With Kyrie playing, even if Kyrie's having a good game, Terry is very, very persistent on taking early shots in the shot clock that are low percentage. Defensively, he slacks. And overall, he's been dipping, and he plays great when he starts the game and Kyrie's out. But and overall, that's a pretty strong microcosm for how the Celtics play. It's really interesting. In games when Kyrie's on the court, the Celtics are fantastic. When Kyrie's off the court and Kyrie's playing, so he plays that game, it's just on-off. When Kyrie's on the bench, but he played that game, Celtics are terrible. But when Kyrie doesn't play at all, so when Kyrie sits the game, Celtics are great. How do you match that? Celtics playing strong basketball when Kyrie isn't there to the same exact instance with Celtics play when Kyrie's on the bench. Why is that so different?
He needs to be able to put himself in that good scenario where they're playing good basketball. Just like you said, that means he might be clashing with Brad.
But I think that...
Or Brad might not be able to work with him like that.
It's not just Brad. It's that I question what his off-the-court relationship is with his team.
Me too,
And
absolutely.
So you got a guy like Larry Bird. Larry Bird was brash. I can picture him saying, we're okay, I'm here, I'll take care of things. But his relationship off the court with his teams were blood brothers.
Right.
I don't get that picture. And I used the analogy before, the old Red Sox teams, when they were losing all the time, it used to be 25 players, 25 cabs when they're on the road.
Yeah.
I got a feeling that the Celtics aren't together off the court.
No, I agree. And more now in the NBA, you're seeing that be less likely. And it's unfortunate that it's showing to be clear with the
helps.
Celtics.
And
Another thing is that similar to Terry, the other suspect for what really starts to snowball effect into having worse and worse offensive performances, especially when Kyrie is out of the game, is Marcus Morris continues to be horrible. Marcus Morris offensively has been really, really digging us into deeper holes. His shots are even worse than Terry Rozier's.
You always do this, Shay.
Because I gave him.
It's just not him.
Did I not give him props when he was playing well, when he was taking smart shots, when he was playing efficiently,
They were
and when he was
smart 'cause
playing
they were
smart?
going in.
Last game.
I mean, he
who was the
shouldn't
best
be a
rebounder
top
on the floor
three
for the
option.
Celtics?
No.
Who was the best rebounder on the floor for the Celtics? It was Marcus Morris. Who was the only guy going to the offensive board and defense? It's truth, Shay. His effort out there.
I'm not criticizing his rebound. I'm not criticizing his defense.
But
I'm
the
not
effort is
criticizing his
important.
effort.
If they all had that effort, if they all rebounded like that, look at the efforts. Look at what Tatum and Horford had 2 rebounds total in that
Yes,
game.
I'm aware.
Well, I would focus. I don't want to lose Tatum, and I think Tatum is having a negative effect here. He took 5 shots in the first 3 or 4 minutes and 3 shots the rest of the game.
Yeah.
He was there. Remember the penetration? Remember when Levine beat him on top, came right down the dunk? Did you look at Tatum?
Yes.
Tatum's feet was stuck in cement. No effort at all to move. Didn't even breathe in that direction.
How do you get Tatum more shots? Maybe you don't take a jump. Maybe you don't take a jump shot when there's 22
I think
seconds.
Kyrie's the wrong guy.
Maybe you don't have 2 players on the court
You
taking
know who I
2
want?
jump shots.
And here's UVA talking. I want Malcolm Brogdon. I'll take Malcolm Brogdon and Middleton immediately for Kyrie, and I'll stop it.
Absolutely not.
I'm
That
just
would be
looking at
interesting.
guys that fit. I'd rather have Kemba Walker. I want somebody in there that's going to bring some
I
chemistry.
bet the Bucks
to
would do that trade.
Yes.
But
Who
I
would
get
do
some.
that trade? You think Milwaukee would do that trade?
I think the Bucks would do
I'm
that
not
trade.
sure they would.
But-
I'm not sure they would. Why would they change
Because
the
there's
chemistry
2
in their
expiring
team?
contracts.
You guys are talking about good players who aren't doing so well. What about players that might be behind the scenes like Baines? So
Yeah.
I saw a statistic. I think it was on Twitter. When he plays 15 or more minutes, they're 15-2. When he plays less than 15 minutes, they're 22-21.
Well, a lot of our
And he
guy
doesn't
out
play
there.
over 15 minutes often enough, but right now he hasn't played
17
in a
games.
month,
Well,
and he's still going to be out for a while.
He
and
is.
it has hurt the team
He's
significantly.
a consistent seed of energy, and when he's on the court, it doesn't matter how the other people are playing because he's going to be giving his full
Right.
bear, and that is needed, and that is lost on these
Yep.
Celtics. And
Yep.
rebounding continues to be an immense issue, and I agree with you that Marcus Morris's rebounding is.
His effort. I'm talking about his effort. I'm
extremely
just talking
necessary.
about what he puts
But when
in
Baines
out
is
there.
there, that rebounding really helps a lot. And I just think that. I think that you speaking on Tatum starting hot, there's been a lot of games this season where he starts hot, and I've loved that. And I think that the reason we don't see that continue to go throughout the game is because in the beginning of the game we're sticking to a game plan. We're trying to employ smart basketball. We're moving the ball, and we're finding the smartest shot. And often Tatum is the one who's willing to take that last step, even if it's maybe not the perfect one, but he's doing a good job at that.
Did you see
but
the-
then later in the game, maybe we're falling behind. Maybe it's just getting close. Maybe we're ahead by 10. We're seeing a Terry Rozier. We're seeing a Jaylen Brown. We're seeing a Marcus Morris take bad shots. And that means that bad shot is going to be a bad shot instead of a good shot 10 seconds later in the shot clock by an Al Horford, by a Jason Tatum. And that hurts those guys. That's why he only attempted 3 shots,
End of the
because
shot
Terry is
clock.
taking
Did you
13
by
shots.
chance see the Anthony Davis Tatum story about the year before he was at Duke?
Tell me.
It's an amazing story. I mean, it's going to tell you. Have we got a minute?
You have 7 minutes.
This is incredible, I think. So it's the year before he's going to Duke, and Jrue Holiday's wife is pregnant and going to have a baby, but she's got a brain situation that's giving her severe headache. She has to go to Duke for medical care. The team comes with them. Anthony Davis and the New Orleans Pelicans come to be with Jrue Holiday while his wife is going for medical attention, and they need to play. They want to play. Right. It's off season. They play against the Duke team with Tatum coming in. Anthony Davis quotes everybody there, and you get it now. There was no coaches there because they're not allowed. No. That Pagliuca's son was a walk-on there. It has come out this week in a long story that I read that the best player on that floor, other than Anthony Davis, hands down, was Jason Tatum before he came in. And everybody is saying, this guy, Anthony Davis, you could tell right away that he had it. He played with us. He was able to play with everybody on that floor immediately. And what that's saying to me is that I wish Tatum could be turned loose. And I don't think he was really turned loose this year. And I think Tatum is a big time. That you read this article and you see this here and you see what that kid accomplished on that. It was 3 days in a row. They played 3 days in a row, and the best player on the whole Pelicans team, other than Davis and every other Duke player, the veterans there was Jason Tatum.
I believe
incredible
1,000%.
player.
I believe
did
it's
see the
incredible
green
player.
light. I saw the green light in the beginning of the season. It was like a long leash green light for
But I think
Jason
it's
Tatum.
Kyrie, and I
but you
do.
got to give him a little bit more.
I think
And
it's Kyrie.
Kyrie hinders on that.
I think that
Kyrie limits
there you
him.
go.
And,
I think that
Kyrie's good.
I agree with that, but that's
He's really
not
good.
saying much. I mean, Drew Holiday hadn't really had his All-Star caliber season yet. It was that season
and that is true. But the kid was only 17 years old. He was going into his freshman year.
saying he's better than Solomon Hill doesn't really scratch the
That
itch,
is
though.
very true. That is very true.
I don't even know what we
Yeah,
have
he's
left.
All-Star.
Go to the Knicks sales. Yeah, okay. So
Hey, made
on
it.
Bill Simmons' podcast, he rumored from people that he talked to and trust during All-Star weekend that James Dolan was rumored to be courting offers. It would be, recently we saw Forbes evaluation saying the New York Knicks continue to be the most valuable franchise in NBA basketball, around $4 billion. It's been rumored that Dolan is
That's
looking.
the value of the team. He
Yes.
wants more than that.
Yes,
He wants five.
obviously
He wants more than five.
He wants hopefully more than five. Some
He knows
people
he's not gonna give
have
that.
thrown out 4.5. But the catch factor about that is that they wouldn't be selling the media rights to the
right,
Garden with
right,
it because
right.
he wants to maintain ownership over
Music.
the ability to have concerts and all these things, which is obviously
That's his
a
passion.
multi-million dollar part of the transaction. So I just want to discuss not necessarily
Well, and we got a
whether or
Knicks
not
guy here.
the Knicks will be sold immediately. Just I think just in a basketball scheme, how promising a sale would be for the future of the franchise. And I think it's really interesting with all this accumulated rumors we've had in the recent months, and we're probably continuing to have in the offseason with Durant and his ownership or his sponsor, whatever.
I'd be interested in
Rich
Knicks,
Kleiman.
and a Knicks fan's
So
take on this.
what
I
do you
really
think
would.
moving forward in terms of how we'll see for players jockeying to come to the Knicks potentially?
Sure. So, I mean, you look at cool owners, you got Mark Cuban. Players don't mind playing for him, except for that whole DeAndre stint where he went. Once Dolan is out of the equation, there's not too many reasons for players not to make New York their home. Right now, they don't trust this guy. This guy's a wild card. Brought Phil Jackson in, fired him right away. It's like nobody has a safe job. You can't trust anybody in New York. Take $5 billion, James Dolan, to be no longer the most hated man in New York, aside from like Pedro Martinez. Like, come on, take the money, get out of there. I understand with the kind of rights to MSG with concerts. It's MSG, it's the Garden. Sorry for the TD Garden, but it is the Garden.
sure.
It is.
I mean, that place is as historic as it gets. When I was there Friday, I looked up at the banners. There was like only 10 to 12 Knicks banners, but there was a Billy Joel concert
Right.
banner.
I seen it.
And it was he had over 100 concerts
Yeah.
there. And I'm like, that's hanging up with our, one world championship one, and then
Well, that's Dolan's passion. I mean, he's a musician himself. I know he's not
very good one.
outstanding. He's
I
never
wouldn't
gonna
go
be
to see him ever.
Huh?
I wouldn't go to see him ever.
No,
Guy
I know,
sucks.
but he is a dedicated musician, and he's
Cares
into
about it.
He's got a passion for it,
for sure.
And I think he sees the same thing that you're saying. Why does he want to be the most hated guy in New York when when he's got all the money in the world and his passion is music anyway? So wash his hands of that. I hope he does, but I worry that like what happened with the Nets, that not many guys have $5 billion out there to come, and you get the wrong, and you're not guaranteed to get the right guy in there.
It's really interesting when you think, so there's a lot of players that are talking about owning a team.
True.
And recently we've heard about Rich Kleiman wants to own a team, but all of these guys' net worth wax and wavers. I mean, obviously, I think it would be really interesting I think there's obviously restrictions with players owning a team while they play, but I would be interested to see if there could be player funding for a specific person to go in together. So more often than not, when a new purchase of a team happens, unless it's a multi-billionaire like Stephen Ballmer, who's like, the 16th richest person in the world, unless it's someone of that caliber, it's probably going to be a grouping of people where there is one majority owner who just has 2% more invested than the remaining of these guys, which 2% sounds small, but it's probably something like $600 million. So it's really interesting because when you look at Rich Kleiman, he wants to own the Knicks, but he's Durant's agent. His net worth is only like $25 million or something like that. So he would need the help. He would need to be throwing some money from Durant, throwing some money from LeBron, throwing some money from maybe some other kingpins, maybe
There's
P.
no way
Diddy.
that's legal.
Nah, but
For
you
an
know,
active player.
It could be under the
It's a
table. is what
Jackie
I'm
Moon
saying.
story.
You're right.
Player,
you know who
coach,
did
owner.
That?
Yeah.
That's what Robert Kraft did.
Right. So
That's exactly what Robert Kraft did. Robert Kraft
Did a few more
and he
things.
may need a new team now anyway. But Robert Kraft did not have that kind of money at all, and he did it without state funding at all, and he purchased the team. So, yeah, but it's still got to be the right guy.
I think that more likely than not, I think it's probably going to be
Get
a
a Knicks
person.
fan in there.
I think more likely than not, it's probably going to be a person we've never heard of. We're going to hear the name, we're going to say who, we're going to look it up, and it's going to say net worth
Hope it's
$6
not a
billion,
Russian.
and we're going to see
I think it's
something
going to be
like that.
someone who's eligible to buy a soccer team or
Yes.
football team.
Right. Should be interesting. I think that it definitely makes them more likely to be able to land free agents. And I think that this being leaked out in the time that it was, I don't know whether Bill Simmons has ulterior motives, because why would he for the New York Knicks, obviously. But I do think that this could be used as an attractive ploy to potential free agents, saying, hey, if you come here and you sign a multi-year deal, don't be nervous about Dolan. Like, we understand that you would probably come no hesitation if Dolan wasn't here, but hey, you need to understand that Dolan is willing to sell, and if there was the right team of people grouped and gathered, that he would sell off, and then you would have more power, and you would have less nervous things to be nervous about in terms of hiring and in terms of management. So I think that could be an extra attraction.
As we're talking about, tell me anything that's going right for the Knicks. I mean, I don't care. Coach, ownership, players.
beat the Spurs.
I guess they get the draft picks.
A lot of these young guys, they look happy.
They look happy.
Which is
They like
something.
playing
Which is
for
something.
Fizdale.
Yeah, they like playing for Fizdale. You got Trier. Shows good signs.
and Mitchell.
I think Moutier is.
Bad.
He's in for the tank. They're putting
How
him
about- how
in.
about we
They're
call
putting
him
him
Frankie
saying,
Cigarettes. How about Frankie
Emmanuel,
Cigarettes?
take all these damn shots. I like
He
him.
might-
He doesn't play a lot.
Get a lot of odds.
Dennis with
You
a big
got-
game, 19-7 and
Yeah,
13
so you
last
got
night.
Dennis Smith there. Robinson looks great with
Robinson, yeah.
DeAndre's kind of overwatch. I'm hoping DeAndre wants to stay. He's kind of guided
he'll
Mitch
attract
this far.
somebody.
And he'll
one of
stay there.
Durant's best friends.
Maybe take a smaller contract, which would be nice for us to sign two big names, which would likely be that
So you got a little
KD.
optimism on the Knicks.
A ton. I'm the most optimistic guy you'll meet on this show, Mike.
Okay.
I think that Durant is definitely going to the Knicks.
I
because
don't.
I don't think he cares whether Dolan is there
So
or
who
not.
do you think that other guy would be? I don't think
do you
it's
have a player?
Kyrie. I
have a
am
player?
hoping that it is Kemba Walker. That's who I want
That would
on the
be
Knicks.
beautiful.
I want Kemba, KD.
yeah.
You got Knox right there, baby. I mean, that's my Knicks right there. You
Well,
got
Knox
Mitchell
is-
Robinson.
Knox is not playing that well.
He needs help, all right? KD would be some pretty good help with Kevin Knox. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
Kevin. Yeah. So you're looking KD and Kemba.
He wants as many Kevins
That's
as
that's
possible.
his.
So
Yeah.
the 3 Ks. Yeah.
3 Ks. It's crazy.
Get away from
You just got fired. No, we'll rehire you.
Not smooth, not smooth.
Yeah, so we'll pick some games potentially off camera, but that's all the time we're going to have. Jeremy, thank you for joining us on the Wheelhouse.
Thanks for
Yeah,
having
really
me.
awesome. It's
hopefully you'll be
it's always
back.
good to have somebody new on.
Hey, it's always fun to spin the wheel.
That's right. We're
Yep.
going to try and get more activation on the website. Jeremy's going to try to write some stuff. Mike and you will write some stuff freehand, and we'll
Okay.
put it up on there.
Yeah.
A little scan action.
Yeah, exactly. Denise does a good job taking pictures of his writing and sending it in. For all of us here at My Wheelhouse, thanks for joining us. Until next time.
Thanks for tuning in.